𝗙𝗲𝗪न्तस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वतीदेवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेष्टाय। Okay, so we have this second chapter of Bhagavad Gita. We are discussing this. Now the chapter's name is Content of Gita Summarized. That's how it goes. And I'm supposed to give you overview by the way. Second chapter is itself an overview on Bhagavad Gita. That's why Srila Prabhupada writes the content of Gita summarized. Now, in second chapter, there are many things discussed, by the way. The main point in second chapter is, so one of the main point in second chapter is the distinction between material body and soul, which is technically called as Atma Anatma Vivek. This is a term used in scriptures. Atma Anatma Vivek. Vivek means discrimination, Atma means soul, Anatma means body. Can you just, Piyush, can you just tell them to talk outside now? Just don't close this, but tell them. So, second point is, so this is one of the main themes of second chapter, and why this is one of the main themes I'll just discuss. The second theme which is discussed in second chapter is let's say service to the Supreme Lord, and the third theme is the symptoms of a self-realized person. So these are the three main themes of second chapter, which basically covers everything. That is why I mean to say, we are soul, and there is God, and we have a connection through service. And when we do service, we become self-realized. That is love of God. And that is why the name of this chapter is Contents of Gita Summarized. So, Sambandh Abhidhay Prayojan. Sambandh, we are soul, and the connection of soul is with Krishna. And Abhidhay, service, and Prayojan, self-realization. That is love of God. So these are the three main themes of the second chapter. If you keep this in mind, then you will know. And I'll show you how it goes. But right from the first verse, first, second, 𝗙𝗲𝗪 𝗪𝗲 𝗪𝗲𝗪𝗀, and third, first, second, third verses, what is happening is Arjuna is very distressed, and he is saying, I don't want to fight, and he's in complete illusion, by the way. So Krishna takes this opportunity to first condemn him and condescend him and tell to him, well, whatever you think, that's absolutely wrong. And he uses actually strong words, and he says 𝗙𝗲𝗪 𝗪𝗲𝗪 𝗪𝗲𝗪𝗀. Second verse, Krishna says, from where Kashmala means from where this material contamination has entered your life, and you're talking like unare, you're talking like a nonsense Shudra, and whatever you're talking, it will lead to defamy, akirtikaram, aswargam, it will not lead to heavenly planets, it will lead to hell. And basically Krishna says, 𝗪𝗪𝗪 samagama partha. 𝗪𝗪𝗪 means you're important. This is a big word. To a Kshatriya, if you say you're important, it's like almost death. You have actually killed him. To a person who is full of valor, courage, and a fighter, and you say you are, in Hindi we say hijra, it's a abuse of the worst kind for Kshatriya. And so Krishna uses this word, and this is a really crazy attitude. So I mean to say, as far as Arjuna is concerned, he is not behaving properly. The idea is Arjuna is saying, I don't want to fight, and Arjuna gives many reasons in the first chapter, but the question is why Krishna is using so strong words, why he's saying important and all these things. He could have said, well, Arjuna, you're not behaving properly, but he abuses him. Why is that? Because Krishna is seeing that Arjuna is not fighting, and there are many reasons for that. There are some logical reasons which Arjuna thinks, but the main thing is Arjuna is denying Krishna's order, and that is a worst kind of calamity which can fall upon any living entity, because that is death, by the way. It's worse than death. Although it is said defame is worse than death, but worse than that is not accepting the orders of Krishna, denying him, denying God. What kind of life is a person will lead if he denies God? That's eternal hell for that. So Krishna uses strong words there to wake Arjuna up. Arjuna, what you are doing, you know. And the point is, Arjuna cannot realize this fact. He is trying to give reasons for fighting, but he cannot realize this fact. His logical faculties and intelligence is trying to he's using all his intelligence to not fight, and it seems correct. His logic seems good on the face of it, but his intelligence is trying to take him on a corrupted, on a wrong path, and he can't understand that. And that's why Krishna says, you are important, you're nonsense. He uses strong words there to wake Arjuna up and tell him, well, you are a devotee, and you are giving me so many reasons to deny me. What is this kind of illusion you are in? That's why Krishna criticizes him. By the way, Srila Prabhupada writes there that sometimes Guru has to criticize his disciple strongly to actually help him to come on the right path. This is a duty of a Guru, by the way, to scold, to warn, to criticize his disciples. Those Gurus who do not warn their disciples, who do not criticize their disciples whenever is required, not always, they are not fit to be Gurus. They are not fit to be Gurus. In fact, there are many Gurus who don't tell their disciples anything simply because they are giving money, or they are having high position in the institution, so they don't tell them. But that's wrong. I mean, Krishna is telling Arjuna, who is his best disciple, and by the way, Arjuna is the person on whom Krishna counts when this battle of Kurukshetra was fought, and and now he is denying. This is crazy. But Arjuna scolds him. Although by scolding him, Arjuna could have said, Krishna, I am done, you know. First of all, I am depressed, I don't want to fight. On the top of it, you are trying to abuse me, you are scolding me, I reject you. That could have happened, by the way. Disciple can reject his Guru if Guru uses this strong words. But Krishna says, forget it, you know. I have to bring this devotee back to the right path. So that's first 3 verses. 4th, 5th, Arjuna gives his own reasons, and Arjuna says, well, finally says, 𝗙cie 𝗹𝗹𝗀𝗀. 7th verse he says, Arjuna, Krishna, I am confused, because now Krishna scolds him, and Arjuna says, my God, I am wrong somewhere, but he can't understand what he's doing, what's the right path. So he says, I am becoming a disciple. And there starts Bhagavad Gita, by the way. After he becomes disciple, then Krishna begins his Bhagavad Gita. So technically Bhagavad Gita begins from text 11. That's Bhagavad Gita. From text 11. The Bhagavad Gita doesn't begin from text 1, 𝗪𝗪𝗪 Kurukshetra. That's the official beginning. But philosophical beginning of Bhagavad Gita is from text 11. So now from 11th onwards, Krishna actually speaks about the difference between body and soul. And we all know these verses, Dehunasminatha Dehe Kaumaram Yavnam Jara. Although a soul passes from one body to another, just like a person changes their clothes, and at the time of death it changes the body and takes another body. Soul cannot be destroyed, it cannot be burned, it cannot be wet. It is finally Krishna says 𝗙liche 𝗹𝗹𝗪𝗏 𝗙liche 𝗪𝗏 𝗪𝗏 शृणोति तथैव च श्रुत्वा 𝗨 वेद न चैव कश्चित्. This is verse number, I'll tell you, let me just have a look. Vashamsi jirnani atha vahananam chindanti shastrani abhyaktva chintoyam atha chet nitya jatam nityam jatasya dhruvam mrityu. Krishna says one is sure to take birth after death and one is sure to die who has taken birth. And he then keeps on going, and text 29 he says 𝗙liche 𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪. He says some look on soul as amazing, some describe him as amazing, some hear of him as amazing, while others, even after hearing about him, cannot understand him at all. So this, till text 29, he is talking about soul and body, and he speaks about what is soul, what are the characteristics of soul, and then he speaks about a reincarnation of soul and life and death, and then he summarizes in text 29 this whole topic of soul and body, and he says, well, this is, I'm telling this information, but very few people realize that the soul and not this body, and they simply wonder what is soul. People philosophize, people have their own philosophy, people discuss, but Krishna says out of thousands only one will realize he is not this body. This is how subtle soul is. So that's one of the theme of Bhagavad Gita, and Krishna also says in this theme, the only function, the soul is part and parcel of God. That point he raises in this section in a very subtle way, but he does that because full explanation, full information of our soul also includes to whom it belongs. If you want to talk about soul, then you have to tell what is soul and who is soul. That's the idea. So what is soul? He says, well, soul is indestructible particle, like that something. But then who is he? That completes the address of that person. Who is he? It's part and parcel of Krishna. So this is Sambandha Gyan. So in this section till 29, Krishna speaks about Sambandha Gyan. Okay, we belong to God and we are spirit souls. And if we realize this fact, simply by realizing this fact, you become fearless. And this is the beginning of devotional service. Now from text 30, Krishna speaks a little bit. Then text 31 and onwards, Krishna is talking about his duty. What is the duty of Arjuna? The duty of Arjuna is to fight, and Krishna, by the way, subtly, in text 32 he says, O Partha, happy are Kshatriyas to whom such fighting opportunities come unsought, opening for them doors of heavenly planets. Sukhina Kshatriya Partha labante uddham idrisham. Text 32. Krishna is saying, after saying your soul and not this body, and why Krishna brings this topic of soul and body, because of two reasons. The point is, you might be thinking, Arjuna says, should I fight or not? Krishna says, well, your soul and not this body. Arjuna says, yeah, Krishna, how this is related to my question? It is related because for Arjuna to fight or not, first point is he has to come out of grief and his attachments to his relatives, because of which he is saying no to fighting. So that's why Krishna is raising the concept of soul. See your attachments on the bodily level, you first understand your soul, and then I will talk further. So as soon as Arjuna gets this information of soul, automatically many of his arguments are off. First chapter he says, I have my brothers and this and Guru, how can I kill them, and this and that. But Krishna, in spite of saying your logics are wrong, Krishna hits at the root and he says, well, all logics are based on your attachment, bodily attachment, and this is the information. You're not this body, your soul, so forget all this logic. So by talking about soul and body, Krishna dismisses all the logical arguments which Arjuna is giving to deny to fight. So in spite of handling each logic one by one, he cuts at the root. And another point to talk about soul and body in the beginning is to help Arjuna to come out of his grief. Once his attachment is gone, he comes out of grief. And the point is, when you're in grief, when your mind is unhappy and sorrowful, there is no chance of devotional service to Lord. An unhappy mind will not be able to grasp God and will not be able to meditate on God. So Arjuna is, somehow Krishna has to bring him out of unhappiness and grief so that he can listen to Krishna's message. A person who is very, so it is said in scriptures, a person who is very happy and a person who is very sad, don't give him spiritual knowledge, because it will fall on deaf ears. It's simply a waste of time. He will not be able to listen, he will not be able to comprehend. So Arjuna is very sad, so Krishna has to bring him to a neutral platform. That's another reason he's giving the knowledge of soul and body, difference between soul and body, that Vivek, Atman, Atma Vivek. So once that is done, Arjuna is ready to understand what is service to God. He can hear the message. But before Krishna gives him the message, Krishna tells him, well, Arjuna, you are Kshatriya and you should fight, because by fighting you will get heavenly planets. So Krishna gives two reasons to fight. First is, Krishna says, well, for you, fighting will be good, first of all, in this material world also. As far as this material calculation is concerned, whether you should fight or not, you have so many calculations, but my reason is that, so if you talk on mundane platform, it's good because you will attain heavenly planets, and that's what Kshatriyas live for, to fight in a battle and attain higher planets and go up. All Kshatriyas desire this result, at least on mundane level. And all Kshatriyas feel themselves fortunate to die in battle, by the way. Kshatriyas wait for a battle and wait for death in a battle. That's glorious for Kshatriyas. Krishna says, well, you whole life you're a Kshatriya, and this is a glorious moment from mundane calculation, so why you're leaving it? That's one reason. But that's mundane, that's a mundane thing. But anyway, Krishna gives him. And then Krishna speaks about service. Now, few verses Krishna is talking on this theme. You should fight because you will have fame, you will go to heavenly planets. This is the opportunity you are waiting for as a Kshatriya. If you don't do that, your enemies will describe you in unkind words and scorn your ability. What could be more painful than to you? 36. 𝗙𝗲𝗋𝗪𝗀𝗍𝗪 vadishyanti tava hita nindastava. They will criticize you and criticize your ability. And Krishna has given a sample of that by saying you are important. Krishna also criticizes, and Krishna says, see, I am telling you once and you are feeling so much pain, but they will be telling you whole life again and again, and will you be able to live that life? Your argument is, I'll go in forest and meditate, but that's absurd argument, because you will not be able to live a life. Whole life you will have this pain, they will criticize you. So what kind of meditation you will do? So by these arguments, although they seem mundane, Krishna is trying to refute Arjuna's arguments which he is giving in the first chapter. Because Arjuna was giving mundane arguments for not to fight. Krishna is giving mundane anti-arguments to fight. He has to begin like that. But then he gives spiritual arguments to fight. And he gives spiritual arguments to make Arjuna realize that he should not deny to fight, he should fight. And that is 38th verse, and Krishna says, tate yudhya yujasva naivam papamavasi. Do the fight for the sake of fighting, without considering happiness, distress, loss, or gain, victory or defeat. For doing so, you shall never incur sin. This is a spiritual argument Krishna is giving. Arjuna didn't talk on spiritual platform. That is why previous to this, all the arguments from 29 to 37 Arjuna, Krishna was giving mundane arguments, anti-arguments to cut his arguments, but now he says to Arjuna, well, there are some spiritual arguments for you to fight, and now because I have given you the knowledge of soul, you will be able to understand spiritual arguments. Sin and piety, it is all related to soul, not related to body. All these concepts are spiritual concepts. So Krishna says, well, if you fight, you will not incur sin. Do fight for the sake of fighting. This is a very important verse. Without happiness, distress, loss, gain, victory or defeat, how can anybody fight for the sake of fighting? That's the question. I mean to say, anybody who fights, anybody who does anything, there is some reason behind that. But Krishna says, do fight for the sake of fighting. Now, what kind of consciousness is this? I should do. Why should I do? Because you have to do. What is this logic? This is possible in just one way. This is just possible when you are serving somebody with love. That's all. There is no other possibility. Only in service, when you serve somebody with attachment, only then you can do something for doing. So just like mother serves a child, and if you ask the mother, so why do you want to serve your child and get up in the night and take so many austerities? Why? Mother will say, well, there's no reason, because he's my child. I must do it. Mother will say, if I don't do it, then who will take care of my child? That's the point. So that is service. So Krishna is bringing the concept of service in this verse. Although it is not explicit here, you can't see that, but it's implied, implicit. Without considering happiness, distress, loss or gain, victory or defeat, how can anybody fight without this in mind, whether I should win or lose? That's impossible. If you fight, you have to either you win or lose. That's the inspiration, by the way, to fight. I should win. But Krishna says, forget this. Forget all winning and losing. You simply fight because it's my order. Because you like me and I like you. And just do it, that's all. And that is what Krishna is proposing. This is a spiritual argument which Krishna is raising. Krishna is bringing service attitude, which is next theme of Bhagavad Gita, 𝗪𝗲𝗪, to serve Krishna. When you are in service of God, you can't deny, and you can't even ask God, why do you want me to do this? I mean to say, you can ask him, why Krishna I should do this? But then your relationship is strained. Your relationship becomes strained, because Krishna says, well, you really need to know why I am telling you. Don't you have faith in me? Don't you love me? Don't you have faith that whatever I tell you, that's for your benefit and that's absolutely correct? Do you have doubt what I am saying? Even if you have doubt what I am saying, still love and service demands that we should serve without asking any questions. That's pure service. So this verse is all about, this verse is not about you shall never incur sins. This is not about exactly sins. This is about Arjuna was about to involve himself in not in sin but in an offense. So here pap is equal to offense. Krishna is saying you are involving yourself in grievous sin, or which is called as offense. You are denying me. What worse sin can be this? I mean to say, especially when God is himself telling you should do this personally, and you say no, this is a crazy thing. This is the greatest sin you can do, and that's why Krishna says you will not incur sin. So he's giving a spiritual argument. He's bringing the concept of service here, and then you can read these verses. He's saying in this endeavor there is no loss and diminution. Neha vikramon asho asti. This is text 40. A little advancement on this path can protect you from most dangerous types of fear. 𝗙𝗲𝗶𝗶 dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. What is this path? A little advancement on this path. This is path of service, where a devotee doesn't care for loss and victory. He's not attached to loss, victory, happiness, distress, personal. He's simply attached to Krishna and his orders. That's the point which Krishna is trying to raise here. And then you can just keep on going on 46, 47, and you can just read that. The theme is this. You just keep this in mind and read this. And then 54, Arjuna asks us a question. 𝗙𝗹𝗹𝗀𝗀 का भाषा सामाजितस्य केशव 𝗙𝗲𝗂𝗪𝗀 किमासीत व्रजेत 54 to 72 till last verse. This section is the third theme of second chapter, which is a self-realized person. Symptoms of a self-realized person. Symptoms of a person who have achieved love of God. Or in other words, Arjuna is asking, what is the symptom of a person who has achieved love of God, and what is love of God? By serving you, I will attain love. So what is that? And love resides in the lover's heart, in the self-realized soul. So what is his symptom? It's a very beautiful question. Two questions by Arjuna as far as goal is concerned. Love and the lover. How do we recognize love, and how do we recognize the lover or self-realized person? That is called 𝗙𝗹𝗹𝗀𝗪𝗀. This is called 𝗙𝗹𝗹𝗪𝗀𝗪. Pragya means consciousness, Sita means established. Whose consciousness is established in love of God, who is fixed. So Arjuna asks this question, and then Krishna 55 to 72 he answers, and he says, when a man gives up all varieties of desires, 55, for sense gratification, this is love. You can't abandon all desires, sense gratification without love, which arise from mental concoction. When his mind is thus purified, finds satisfaction in self alone. You will never find satisfaction if you're not in love of God, if you don't fall in love with God. Then he is said to be in pure transcendental consciousness. So you see, Krishna is handling these two questions together. What is love? What are symptoms of self-realized person? And he's saying one who is not disturbed in mind, even in threefold miseries, or elated when there is happiness, who is free from attachment, fear, anger, is called stage of steady mind. This is love. Material world, one who is unaffected by whatever good or evil he may obtain, neither praising it or despising it, is firmly fixed in perfect knowledge. And then Krishna gives some example of tortoise, and then he talks about hypocrite people who actually who don't control their senses, but then inside their mind they're thinking of sense gratification. Often it happens with us. I mean to say, we are weak, our minds become disturbed, but we are not hypocrites because we want to control mind. Hypocrites are those who don't want to control their mind and senses. They say, okay, well, I'll enjoy devotion, I'll enjoy material world. That's their mentality. Krishna says, 𝗦𝗪𝗪𝗀𝗪𝗪 𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪 and then Krishna speaks text 64 is important. When we talk about love, we talk about mercy, because love and mercy. Love is a queen, mercy is the daughter of that queen. So text 64 talks about mercy. He says, 𝗙𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪 He says, who gets mercy of Lord? Person free from all attachments and aversion, able to control his senses through regulated principles of freedom, and obtain the complete mercy of Lord. And how can we do this? This is possible if we are on the path of love. This is the idea. So then you can read till 72 verses. I think there are 72 verses. Yeah, I think. 𝗍 ब्रह्मी. Last verse is 𝗍 ब्रह्मी स्थिति पार्थ नयनाम प्राप्य विमुह्यति चित्ताम अस्याम अंतकाले ब्रह्म निर्वाणम ऋच्छति. Krishna tells, if till the end of your life you are able to serve me and love me, and remember your soul, you are not this body, what's going to happen? This is a way of spiritual and godly life, after attaining which man is not bewildered. If one is thus situated, even at the hour of death, one can enter into the kingdom of God. And that's second chapter. Contents of Gita summarized. There is nothing else to be told and said. You have to read this chapter and understand this and realize this. Okay, so if there's nothing to be said, I am done. Hare Krishna. Any questions?